Don't give up, your English will get better. Hello, my friend. Welcome to this podcast. If you are listening to me right now, I want you to understand something very important. You can learn English. Yes, you. Maybe you have been studying English for weeks, months, or even years. Maybe you can understand some English, but when someone speaks to you, you don't know what to say. Maybe you know many words, but you are afraid to speak. Maybe you make mistakes when you speak, and sometimes you feel embarrassed. Maybe you compare yourself to people who speak English perfectly and think, why can't I speak like them? I will never be fluent. English is too difficult for me. I am too old to learn. I started too late. I am not intelligent enough. My friend, stop. Take a deep breath, and listen carefully. You are not failing. You are learning. There is a huge difference. You are not too slow. One of the biggest mistakes English learners make is believing that they are learning too slowly. You learn 10 words today. Tomorrow, you forget 3. You learn a new grammar rule. A few days later, you forget it. You practice pronunciation. But when you speak with someone, you still make mistakes. And you think, maybe I am not good at English. No, that is not the truth. Your brain needs time. Learning a language is not like downloading an application. You cannot click a button and suddenly become fluent. Your brain needs repetition. It needs practice. It needs mistakes. It needs time. Think about a baby learning to walk. A baby does not stand up one morning and immediately run. The baby falls. The baby stands again. The baby falls again. The baby tries again, and again, and again. Nobody looks at that baby and says, you are terrible at walking. Nobody says, you fell 3 times. Give up. Instead, everyone understands, the baby is learning. So why don't you give yourself the same patience? You are learning too. Every mistake you make is part of the process. Every sentence you try to speak is practice. Every word you learn is progress. Every time you listen to English, your brain is becoming more familiar with the language. You may not see the progress today. But that doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Stop being afraid of mistakes. Let me tell you something that can completely change the way you learn English. Mistakes are not your enemy. Mistakes are your teachers. If you say, she go to school. Someone may correct you, she goes to school. Good. Now you know. You made a mistake, but you learned something. If you say, I am agree. Someone may correct you, I agree. Good. You made a mistake, but now your English is better than it was 5 minutes ago. Don't be ashamed of mistakes. Be ashamed only if fear prevents you from trying. Because the person who never speaks because they are afraid of mistakes will never discover what they are capable of doing. Imagine 2 English learners. The first learner studies grammar for 2 years but is afraid to speak. The second learner speaks every day. The second learner makes hundreds of mistakes. But every mistake teaches them something. Who will probably improve faster? The person who practices. Not the person who waits for perfection. You don't need perfect English to start speaking English. You need to start speaking English to eventually become better. You don't need a perfect accent. Maybe you don't like your accent. Maybe you hear Americans, British people, Canadians, or other fluent English speakers and think, my accent is terrible. Listen, your accent is part of your journey. Your goal should not be to erase who you are. Your goal is to communicate clearly. If people can understand you, you are communicating. And yes, you can improve your pronunciation. You can practice sounds. You can listen to native speakers. You can repeat sentences. You can record your voice. You can practice every day. But don't spend your entire life waiting for a perfect accent before you speak. You don't need to sound like a native speaker to be successful. You need confidence. You need vocabulary. You need practice. And you need the courage to open your mouth and speak. Stop comparing yourself. Comparison can destroy your motivation. You see someone speaking English fluently. They speak quickly. They understand jokes. They use advanced vocabulary. They sound confident. And you think, I wish I could speak like that. But you don't know their story. Maybe they have studied English for 10 years. Maybe they live in an English-speaking country. Maybe they use English at work every day. Maybe they have practiced thousands of hours. You are comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. That is not fair. Instead of asking, why am I not as good as them? Ask, am I better than I was yesterday? That is the question that matters. Maybe yesterday you knew 100 English words. Today you know 105. That's progress. Maybe yesterday you couldn't introduce yourself. Today you can say, hello. My name is David. I am from Haiti. I live in the United States. I am learning English because I want to communicate better. That's progress. Small progress is still progress.